Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. David Law, who is here on behalf of MemorialCare Saddleback Medical Center, who has studied pulmonology and critical care for many years, but is now heading up the age-friendly Committed to Care Excellence Program. Now, of course, you've had the age-friendly program for some time, but you know, maybe we just haven't heard enough about it. So welcome to the program to share that with us.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for having me on. Any opportunity I have to promote age-friendly healthcare is something I heartily embrace. But a lot of people ask, well, what is it? What does it mean, age-friendly healthcare? Well, here's the short version. The healthcare policymakers in this country have realized for many, many years that the American healthcare system simply is not poised to take care of this tsunami of older adults that's coming down the pike in the next 20 to 25 years. You know, in the next 20 to 25 years, patients my age, 65 and over, are going to comprise almost 25% of the population, close to 100 million of us. Yeah. And this includes a huge number of older adults with multiple chronic complex conditions. And we know these people who are listening out there are certainly aware of this. And the American healthcare system is just not primed to handle this. One of the problems is that patients of my age, I'm throwing myself in there because I'm 81, simply have a hard time getting evidence-based care. And the reason I bring that up is because when we physicians treat patients in the office, look, we are guideline driven. There's guidelines out there that tell us how to treat diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and stroke and whatnot. And these guidelines come from from randomized controlled studies that are in the literature. And these are all vetted by our professional societies and by the insurance companies and by the accrediting agencies. But guess what? The subjects who make up these studies are much younger. Their average age of about 55 to 60. They do not have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 medical conditions. They are not on 10, 15, 20 medications. Right. It's a whole different body of patients that that these studies comprise. Now, in older adults, they have 4 chronic health conditions, which is not unusual. They end up on 15, 16 medications. And these medications, we know not all of them are helpful. Some of them are. And we know that there's at least 1 or 2 that might be harmful. That's what I'm saying, that older adults just do not have access to evidence-based care medicine for the most part, particularly if they're frail, particularly if they have multiple complex conditions.
Right.
Well, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, which is an organization that is continually looking for ways to make healthcare safer, along with the John A. Hartford Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization, spotted this and said, there's something we have to do something about. We have to find a way to make care of older adults safer, economic, and evidence-based. So they scanned a number of healthcare systems that were looking specifically at older adults and how they're handling older adults, what they were doing, what worked, what didn't work. To make a very long story short, they reduced healthcare to 4 elements called the 4 M's. Okay. What matters most? Now they're determining what matters most to patients, not to physicians, what matters most to patients, and aligning care according to what matters most. That's the first M. The second M is medications. Avoid high-risk medications for patients, the medications that are dangerous, and deprescribe medications that are no longer beneficial. The third M, mentation. Screen for depression, dementia, and delirium, and take measures before these problems become worse. And the most important one that we're going to focus on later next month is movement. Patients, older patients must move safely every day to prevent falls, to improve cognitive function and others. Now, the reason I'm saying these are all evidence-based, each one of these elements, when practiced individually in various settings, showed benefit to older adults, either improve patient satisfaction, either cost saving or reduce falls or reduce medication reaction. But when used together as a framework in which to treat medications, it is evidence-based and improves care for older adults. So that's the short form of age-friendly healthcare.
So those are all very important, of course. And one thing that kind of comes to mind, though, is along these lines, when you say that, you know, you have the organizations who are taking a look at this, which obviously is help fueling what's to come down the pike. How does insurance fall in line with this? I mean, we have Medicare and some others. Are they taking note as well?
Medicare and certainly the accrediting agencies like the Joint Commission they are being very forthcoming and looking to see how healthcare systems are gearing up to treat older adults. Okay. And they are very much embracing this age-friendly health systems. Now, whether or not it's embedded in their provisions, I can't speak to that, but very definitely they know that the care of older adults is going to be crucial on the horizon coming down the pike.
Well, that's good because, you know, you talked about medications and, you know, many people can't get certain kinds of medication here in our country. So they do go out of the state or out of the country. But then also we have people who can only get certain kinds and can't get others. So when you said that there's medications that are harmful to people, well, they're taking them because that's the only thing their insurance company might be paying for.
Well, you know, I'm really not referring to generics might be more harmful than brand or vice versa. That's not really what What I mean is there are medications that are known to be dangerous for older adults. And there is a whole list called the Beers criteria, which anybody can look up online. That's BEERS, named after Dr. Beers. And there is an amazing list of medications that are dangerous. Now, I'll give you an example. Sedatives, Valium, Xanax, Librium, Restoril. These are all very common, and Ativan that are prescribed for older adults for sedation, for relaxation, for sleep, that maybe at age 50 or 55 might be okay, but even but at age 75 or 80, these are medications which can cause cognitive impairment, that can cause instability, that leads to falls. And that's not the only kind of medication. That's kind of what I'm referring to. And these are medications that are commonly prescribed for older adults. And there's a whole list of medications. I'm not going to go on to that list, but that's what we need. The other thing is, you know, when patients are started on medication at age 50 or 55 for a particular problem, because it prevents a catastrophic event in the next 10 or 15 years, well, by the time that patient is 75 or 80, that medication may no longer have that same value, and in fact may be more riskier in terms of side effects.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. You know, at age 50, 55, 60, we metabolize medications a lot different than when we reach 80 or 85. And a lot of times the doses aren't changed. A lot of times medications are continued even though the window of benefit has closed. And that presents a risk for older adults. Yeah. So that's another part of what we're talking about, this medication M. That medication has to continually be reviewed, and dangerous medications discontinued, and medications that are no longer beneficial have to be discontinued.
That's great. Well, thank you for the clarification, because I wanted to make sure we were on the same page. That's really good news. Now, what then would Saddleback MemorialCare be doing possibly differently than a hospital who isn't age friendly? Obviously, you mentioned evaluating the medications on a regular basis. What else?
Well, okay, let's take the first M. What matters most? Now, the nurses have been instructed at the end of each shift, they will question the patient, what matters most? What matters most today? Or what's going to matter most tomorrow for your care? And it is to be documented. And we have a best practice alert that if a high-risk medication is ordered by a physician, that alert pops up. This is a high-risk medication. You know, do you want to continue? Do you want to change to a safer medication? It's up to the physician, because there's times when you need those medications. The third, mentation. Well, we have a tool that the nurses use to screen for delirium in the hospital. And they're to apply this tool once a shift and document it. Is it positive? Is it negative? And they also have a list of interventions if a patient happens to test positive for delirium. And we have a whole list of preventative measures that we use in every patient to reduce the risk of cognitive impairment. One of those interventions, by the way, is providing an opportunity for 6 uninterrupted hours of sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've implemented that. That's standard work at Saddleback because sleep deprivation leads to cognitive impairment in older adults in the hospital. The last M, patients are to ambulate 3 times every day in the hallway wherever possible. So that's how Saddleback is implementing the 4 M's. And we're documenting it, and it's subject to audit and review.
That's great. And then as you get more and more information over the years, you'll be able to hopefully, produce studies and have, like you said, the factual information that most patients, I think, are looking for. They want to have statistics. They want to have some sort of evidence saying, okay, well, I've been on this forever. Why do I need to change now? So I think that's really excellent. Now, you guys have a seminar that's coming up. It's called a Balancing Act. Does it discuss these types of things?
Correct. It's May 20th. It's going to be a Zoom lecture, and we're going to focus on falls. We're going to focus on falls, but you can't talk about falls without talking about all 4 M's, because cognitive impairment leads to falls. High-risk medication leads to falls. When you have a fall, you can't do what matters most. So we're really going to put falls in the context of the 4 M's in age-friendly healthcare. But I will say this as a point of advertising: you will learn, everybody will learn, how can I assess my own risk for a fall? And what can I do to reduce my risk for a fall? So the people are going to learn this at this conference.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying all of this. It sounds like a really great program. And like you said, there's going to be so many older adults here over the next 20 years that everyone better get started now.
You bet. That's true.
All right. Dr. Law, thank you again.
My pleasure. Anytime.
And we'll be right back after this.